welcome to my channel. Today I decided I want to talk about astrology. Oh, there's my cat. There he is. I'm gonna do like a basics kind of video. Today I'm gonna focus on the planets, their meanings, their significations, things that they rule, I'm gonna talk about the planets. So, for the sake of this video, I'm only going to talk about like the traditional planets, so like the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Also because I think that if you're going to like, for people that are just getting into astrology, I think it's easier if you just focus on those planets, because I think Uranus through Pluto can add some confusion. And for reference, the main things I'm going to be using are, well, I have notes, first of all, that I've written. And my sources are like Vedius Valen's Anthology, Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology, and then if I end up referencing other things, I'll mention those. Okay, so first, let's start with the Sun. The Sun on its own, it kind of represents our ego, okay? The Sun is our natural fire. It's our like intellectual light. The Sun is a luminary, you know? It is the only it is the only like celestial body that like within our system that produces its own light, aside from like fixed stars, you know? It gives light to the moon. It sheds light on planets that are close to it. And sometimes when planets are too close to the Sun, you can't even see them, you know? And so like, for instance, if like Venus is too close to the Sun, then like that aspect of your life will end up being hidden from the outside world. The Sun also represents our like mental perception, so the way that we see the world. It represents our intelligence and our beauty, so like our outward appearance, how we like to appear to other people. It can show where there's fortune in a chart. It can show like how we make decisions, because ultimately like decision making is based, you have to use your ego, you have to use like what works for you personally. It can also represent the father, a relationship with the father. So like, for example, you could have if you have like the Sun in the 12th house, you could have a difficult relationship with your father. Like you may not see him all the time, or like he'd be kind of pervasive and hard to like hold, like grasp, you know? Or if you have like your Sun in harsh aspect to Mars, then it can mean that you have a lot of like fighting with him, you know? It can also represent like action, kingship, and rule. So people who have charts that are ruled by the Sun, they tend to be like very much elevated by other people. So like people with Leo placements, or like people who are, I was gonna say people whose charts are ruled by the Sun, but like those would be Leo risings, right? It can represent someone who's very intellectual, someone who works with like scholars. It can also represent like your public reputation. So again, how you are seen by others. It's your persona. It's perceptions. It can represent high priesthood, like being a ruler over a country. So like I already mentioned kingship, but just like having influence, because again, the Sun's rays reach really far. Authority over masses. So again, there's a lot of authority-ship in regards to the Sun. It also rules over wheat, it rules over barley, and gold as well. So when you're looking at the Sun in your chart, it shows where you naturally shine well, you know? Whether that's like, it's mainly the house placement. You'll see it in the house placement. Like where your light shines the brightest, where you may be like a natural leader. It can show like the area where you are able to like bring fortune into your life. The Sun isn't inherently like good or bad. you know, because like I said, if a planet is too close to the sun, then you can't even see it. So like planets that are within 15 degrees of the sun are not seen, and so those will be things that are hidden from you. So say if you have like me, if you have Mercury in within 15 degrees of your sun, it's said to be like under the beams of the sun. Then like your intellect, your way of thinking, the way you talk, like your communication may be like hidden from the world. You may not express yourself as openly. Or like if you have Venus under the beams of the sun, for example, it may like, you could be someone who gets married in secret, or like keeps your relationship secret because you don't, it could be fears of like how it would affect your reputation, or like it just doesn't feel, I don't know, you just might hide it from others, or it may just end up being hidden. And I wouldn't call the sun the most important placement in your chart. It does show like a central part of who you are and like how you think and like how you're perceived and how you see the world, but it's not necessarily like most important placement. I would always say go to your chart ruler. So that your chart ruler is whatever planet rules over the sign that is your rising sign. Okay, so like for me, I am a sidereal Gemini rising, so I would look at my Mercury placement. Or in tropical, I'm a tropical Cancer rising, so I would look at my moon placement to see what my chart ruler is, because that would be like the most important planet in my chart. So next, we're gonna go to the moon. So the moon is a lot of different things. Okay, so first, the moon is also a luminary, but the moon does not produce its own light. The moon is a reflection of the sun's light. Okay, so the moon, it receives its light from the sun, so it is a part of ourselves that is very receptive. It's where we find like our intuition. It's where we find our emotions. It can be a little bit wandering, I suppose. That's one of the ways that it's described. It rules life. It rules our physical body. It rules like maternal influences. It rules conception and beauty and appearance. Both the sun and the moon rule beauty, and also Venus. So like beauty's all in the chart, but it's just different aspects of beauty. Moon can also rule appearance and sight, like how you see. It can rule marriage and like nurturing, so like what you find nurturing for yourself, what you find comfortable, what you need to feel cared for. Like, so if you have a Cancer or Capricorn moon, that would be like security in some aspect. Like you need to feel secure in order to feel nourished. You know, you need stability to feel nourished. It can also rule like it rules like mistresses of the house. So like feminine people who are in charge of their homes, possessions, fortune, gains, expenses, your household. Like it also rules silver, glass, green, and also foresight. So you can also look at the moon and see, I was already talking about like the moon and intuition, right? And so like by looking at your moon, you can figure out how to better listen to your intuition. You can figure out like where your intuitive knowledge may lie best. So like if you have moon in the 7th house, I have moon in the 7th house, you may be very intuitive about like about people in your life, about like your intimate relationships with people, and knowing which ones are best for you, and that may be where you like work on honing your intuition the most. And in regards to your body too, it can point to like health and such. So like when I was talking about nourishing yourself, it's not just nourishing your emotional body, but also nourishing your physical body. Like again, for me as a earth moon, I find that I need to like physically move my body more in order to like process my emotions. That's what works for me. But say someone who has like an air moon or something, maybe they need to write it down, maybe they need to talk it out, maybe that's what's best for them. Maybe that's how they are able to like best process their emotions, because also like scientifically they've shown that your emotions are connected with your like physical nervous system, and through movement and other ways you're able to clear that out, and like trauma is stored in the body, emotional trauma is stored in the body, right? So that makes sense to me. And also when people have like a very like moon, like a lunar heavy chart, it's really, the moon tends to go about things like a roundabout kind of way, and so they might find themselves taking a while to get to the point, or taking a while to like get to their goals. But I think it's probably because they are like adapting to their environment. Like I was saying, the moon, change. Sorry, I like blanked. I was saying, the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, right? And so like it's very adaptable. It adapts to the environment that it's in. It changes its nature depending on the environment that it's in. So people with like lunar heavy charts, so like Cancer placements, or like, yeah, Cancer placements, even if like your moon is not in a like favorable position, these are people who are very adaptable, able to like switch things up based on the environment that they're in so that it better reflects them. It may take a longer time for them to get to where they're trying to go, but it's often following the path of least resistance because they're trying to nourish themselves first, and make sure they're doing what's right and what's good for them, and like following their intuition, which again could take longer, but maybe like path of least resistance. Next, I'm gonna get into Mercury, because Mercury has like, it rules so many things. It's so versatile. Also, I forgot to mention, planets do have like sex. Like some like planets will do like diurnal, nocturnal, so like day or night. The sun is day, the moon is night. Mercury is neither. Mercury is, it can be anything. Mercury also doesn't have like a masculine or like feminine signification. It's completely based on the planets that it's interacting it with, and like the rest of the chart that it's in. And it rules so many things. It rules education, letters, reasoning, brotherhood, interpretation, embassies, numbers, accounts, geometry, markets and youth, games, theft, communication, service, gain, discovery, banking, hearing, versatility, strategy, knowledge, selling, service, trade, law, friendship, trust. It rules copper, it rules coins, so again back to money. The color blue. It also, like, as far as professions go, like mercurial jobs are like temple builders and modelers, sculptors, doctors. Like you see the caduceus symbol, like the stick with the two snakes and the wings. That is a mercurial symbol. It comes from Hermes Trismegistus in Hermeticism. Philosophers, musicians, prophets, diviners, so like people in the metaphysical world, people who like tarot readers, astrologers, things like that, dream interpreters, braiders, weavers, accountants, astrologers. I already said astrologers, but like I'm reading from my notes. And also those that make money from their skills. So like any skill trade is mercurial. Anything that you build your like using your hands, that's mercurial. It also rules deception, gambling, sleight of hand. But yeah, if it's in malefic places, it can be worse. But if it's in like benefic places, it can be better. But yeah, that's also why I say, like, I've mentioned this in my like TikTok videos. If you don't follow me on TikTok, please follow me. That like Gemini placements are very pure in energy because they are mutable mercurial air. They're literally whatever the rest of their chart is, right? So if you're a Gemini, your chart is ruled by Mercury. Where is your Mercury? Say if you're a Gemini with a Gemini Mercury, you're just out here trying to explore and see what exists. You're just trying to open your mind and try a bunch of different things. You'll probably work a bunch of different professions, meet a bunch of different people, and they're very like similar to the, like, kind of similar to the moon, but like in a different kind of way. Like with the moon, it's wandering, but not because it's trying to explore. It's wandering because it's trying to like see what is the best fit. For Mercury, it's exploring for the sake of exploring, you know. And this is also like with Mercury ruling all these things. That's also why like Mercury retrograde can be so difficult, because Mercury is so intertwined with our day-to-day lives. You know, it's our communication. It's how we talk. It's how we walk. It's how we navigate the world, like in daily life. It's technology also. You know, so like Mercury retrograde, you'll start seeing like technology breaking down. You'll start like going to work takes a long time, or like you'll have communication issues, or like a bunch of like businesses for example that rule all these different trades. So like I'd say like plumbers or like banks could have issues. Like for instance, this past Mercury retrograde, another Mercury retrograde. I've had two Mercury retrogrades where I've had to like report fraud on my bank account because someone was trying to use my card number, and not just me. Like I also had a coworker. The same thing happened as soon as Mercury retrograde started. And also I've just noticed that for myself and for a lot of other people, we tend to have a lot more difficulties in commuting to and from work, or like going places. It just takes a lot longer. But that's also why during Mercury retrograde, you're kind of encouraged to go look within and to reflect and to like take your time doing things, because so many things being thrown off. But the more you go within, the easier it is to deal with it, you know. Yeah, Mercury is just very interesting to me. Yeah. So next, let me take some water. So next, Venus. Venus is of the night. Venus is of the night sect. It rules desire, love, sex, motherhood, nature, priesthood, high offices, ornaments, purchases, favorable arrangements, marriage, beautiful voices, music. If you are somebody with like strong Mercury and Venus placements, you could be a great musician, just so you know. As long as they're like placed well, I guess. Actually, no, you can do it anyway. Don't let your chart stop you. It also rules beauty, painting, color. Also specifically like deep purple dyes because it's associated with royalty. Giving and receiving of gifts, laughter, like good cheer. I've already mentioned ornamentation. Venus is about like luxury, you know. It's about indulging. Sometimes people will say Venus rules money, but Venus doesn't rule money. Venus will often result in you spending a lot of money or like gaining a lot of money, but it's not necessarily associated with money. It results in that because Venus wants luxury. Venus wants the finer things. Venus wants to be like higher up, like just things associated with Venus tend to be expensive. But that doesn't make Venus like, it doesn't rule money. But like people with strong Venus, with strong Venus in their chart, will tend to be very like creative. You'll find artists here, you'll find musicians here, you'll find like fashion designers and stuff with lots of strong Venus influence. They also tend to like ornamenting themselves with things. My Venus is highly aspected. I have a Libra Venus in tropical. I wear lots of jewelry all the time, like rings, earrings, necklace. I got waist beads, I got bracelets. I have an anklet I'm buying for myself later. I like want every part of myself to be adorned. Also, if you have Venus transiting through your second house, it could mean that you have luck in finances, but it could also mean that you end up spending a lot of money on things that make you feel good. So watch out for that. And also, I was talking about, so like when some planets are too close to the sun, they can end up being like under the beam, so things will be hidden. So like, say if you have, I kind of mentioned before, like if Venus is under the beams of the sun, you can get married in secret. You can also keep your relationships secretive, but it could also result in you like maybe dressing up and like getting dressed up nice and like doing your makeup and stuff like only when you're staying at home, or only when you know you're not going to see people that you know. Or even like keeping all of your friendships separate. That could also be another thing. But Venus wants you to feel good. You know, Venus wants you to really like receive like all of these things that make you feel, I don't know, luxurious, makes you feel high class, makes you feel I'm not gonna say cared for, but like pampered. And that can vary depending on like where your Venus is. Where Venus is in your chart, like the house that it's in, can also indicate like areas of your life that you're likely to have a lot of like good luck, a lot of things coming to you, or like where you're likely to find good fortune. So like I'm using my own chart as an example again. I have Venus in the 4th house, so I have a tendency to the closer I work with my ancestors, the closer I return to my roots, like roots, not like family, but like beyond that, the better things go for me, you know. I have a night chart, and so Venus is the benefic of sect in my chart, and so it brings me, in my chart, it is the benefic that brings me the most luck, right? And so like as I follow it, that is where I find the most fortune. What else? It can also indicate working with precious stones, emeralds, ivory, gold. It can also it's about like barbers, so people that work with hairstylists ruled by Venus, people that like cleanliness. Venus is not Venus, I guess if you depending on Venus inherently does not like messiness. Because it wants things to be nice and to aesthetically pleasing. It can also represent support from others and pleasure. I've already mentioned pleasure, but support from others. So communities, you can find communities in Venus, because Venus is also likes when things are going very smoothly. It likes to bring things together. It's about like peace. Venus doesn't really like when things are too like are butting heads too much, you know. Venus doesn't like conflict. Venus likes things to be smooth, things to be balanced, things to flow easily, okay? So now, you know, I'm gonna go to Jupiter first, because Jupiter is another benefic, and I was just talking about Venus. So Jupiter is the benefic of day. When I talk about benefics and malefics, so like benefics are planets that traditionally tend to bring about, when they are situated well, like when they are in their own dignity, when they are in their essential dignity, they tend to bring about good things, blessings, money, like gifts. They're meant to bring about like good things in your life. Malefics are ones that tend to when they are situated in their essential dignity, they are said to bring about like chaos, difficulty, like breaking apart relationships, etc. So anyway, Jupiter, a benefic. It is the benefic of the day sect. It rules childbearing, desire, love, political ties, acquaintances, friendships with people in high places, prosperity, deposits and trust, so like people that just give you money, salary, big gifts, abundance in crops, justice, offices, authorities, money. So Jupiter and Mercury relate to money. Great gifts. I have great gifts written here twice. So obviously Jupiter brings about huge blessings. At least it can. Inheritance, brotherhood, fellowship. Relief from your troubles, release from bonds. So like freedom as well. Jupiter shows where we're able to expand things. It's about expansion. Expansion of mind, expansion of your dreams, expansion of money, expansion of your home. Honestly, anything that Jupiter touches will be expanded. So like sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad. So for example, if you have like Jupiter in harsh aspect to Mars, then you could have a lot of difficult relationship. You could have a lot of conflict in your life, and like even though that conflict may lead to great things later, it could also just be an excess of conflict that causes a lot of chaos in your life, and so like Jupiter in aspect isn't always good. Or say if you have like Mercury in aspect to Jupiter, you could, one, be someone who talks a lot, but two, you could also be someone who has a very open mind, who wants to learn a lot, who wants to like explore the world, who wants to do more. So also if you have like Mercury in a Jupiter sign, so if you have Mercury in Sagittarius or Pisces, Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius, but I can still point out I have Mercury in Sag. It can also point to being a great storyteller, expanding your world of your consciousness, like imagination, things like that. I've also seen in some things where Jupiter can point to like your spouse eventually, because it does rule marriage, so it can show the kind of people, the kind of marriage that you'll have in the future if you choose to get married. And there is a lot here about like Jupiter and money. And again, it also rules like government and structures like that. That's also part of why I like to stick to the sidereal zodiac, because like in the tropical zodiac, Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, ends up getting associated with like working within structures and like wanting to like gain status and like being in positions of power, but like that doesn't make sense because Saturn in its essential dignity doesn't rule those things, Jupiter does, however, and so it makes more sense for me for like sidereal, for tropical Capricorns, most of them to be sidereal Sagittarius, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm going to talk now about Mars, because we're going into the malefics now. Mars rules the night sect. Not rules the night sect, that's wrong. Mars is of the night sect, so Mars is a night planet, according to Valens. It rules force, wars, plundering, burglary, robbery, violence, sex work, property loss, banishment, abortion, alienation from your parents, being widowed, love affairs, marriage, but like marriage being like broken apart, losing things. It rules lies, selfish hopes, which is something that was written there. I'm not sure exactly what he means by selfish hopes. I'm thinking maybe like hoping for things that aren't yours and would not like benefit other people. So like, for example, like hoping for something bad to happen out of like pettiness. Also rules like looting, fights among friends, anger, fighting, hatred, lawsuits, action, effort. It also shows action and effort. Also rules red, wine, and beans, like the color red, and then wine and beans as food. And it can also bring about like violence and bloodshed, and like traditionally, these are traditional meanings of Mars. Violence and bloodshed and like boils like on your body, torture, lies, fire, craft work, masonry, so like blacksmiths, smiths in general, like blacksmiths, any kind of smith working with fire, ruled by Mars. It can cause like war campaigns. It can lead to it can go lead to leadership, but usually that's leadership that comes from like fighting and like forcing yourself into that position, and not necessarily because it was given to you. So like kind of like tyranny. It can also rule hunting, which makes sense. Like and wild game, which again goes with hunting. Falling from great heights, and like poor vision. Mars, I don't think Mars is like all bad, because we need, see, this is something we talk, it's important to note that like you can't have good without bad, you know, so you need that contrast. And if you have a chart that is like, if you have a chart, but like if you're looking at a chart that's like where there's like weak Mars placements, they may have a hard time with asserting themselves, because you need Mars to assert who you are. You know, sometimes you need to break apart friendships, sometimes there needs to be conflict, sometimes these things need to happen for the sake of growth, you know. And so it's not really like bad, like they are difficult circumstances, but that doesn't necessarily make them like bad in my eyes. And also you can like put Venus and Mars on kind of a spectrum, I guess, where Venus is like the bringing together, the like building relationships, it's the forming of alliances, where Mars is like breaking those things apart, breaking those things down, challenging them. But sometimes it's what needs to happen, you know. And also Mars does really well in the 6th house. That's where it finds its planetary joy. I can do another video about that. But like that's where Mars finds its planetary joy. That's where like, because the 6th house is the house of like service of other people, right? And so if you have Mars in the 6th, wait, let me go back. Mars, the 6th house, service of other people, it's like health, it's your daily routine, right? And so if you have Mars in your 6th house, you are unlikely to give so much to others that you forget to give to yourself. 2, you are someone who probably like puts a lot of effort in your daily routine. Like you're someone who is very good at maintaining like a good work, like a strong work ethic, you know, you're really good at getting things done. Also, someone that has like a Martian 6th house may take a lot of care for their health. Like they could also be kind of clumsy, but they do put in a lot of effort towards those things. And Mars in that placement does tend to be like good and bring about good things. So next, I'm gonna go to Saturn. Oops, I skipped too far. Saturn, also rules a lot of things. It is of the day, so it's a day planet. It rules lead, wood, stone, also the star Nemesis. People ruled by Saturn tend to be petty. This is, again, these are from Valen's notes. I will talk more about this. I have a very strong Saturn in my chart. Not strong Saturn. I have a lot of Saturn influence in my chart. People ruled by Saturn tend to be petty, malignant, self-deprecating, very solitary. It can be deceitful at times, secretive, strict, kind of like downcast emotionally, wear a lot of black. They also tend to, people with Saturn placements can do well in like nautical fields, so like they're good with being on the water. It can also cause like you to be like humbled. Like Saturn will put you through situations that will fully humble you and make you realize who you are. Like if your ego gets too big, Saturn will knock you down. Sluggishness, it can lead to unemployment, like obstacles in business, lawsuits, secrets, being imprisoned, being restricted, chains, grief, accusations, capture, widows, childlessness. It can lead you to like taking care of other people's property, other people's kids, things like that. It can also lead, however, to great ranks and like distinguished positions, management of people's property, like supervision, etc. It also rules like depravity. The way that I view Saturn is actually as like the things that are on the outskirts, you know, the difficulties that people have to face in their life. I was also reading like Liz Green's Saturn, a New Look at an Old Devil, and she talks a lot about how one of Saturn's purposes is to help lead us to like a more complete version of ourselves, you know. And so by understanding Saturn, we can understand the ways that we hold ourselves back. We can also understand like where we will find the most difficulties in our lives. It can also help us with embracing our shadow and embracing our fears. I don't think Saturn is something to be feared. Saturn is also a planet of karma, you know. And so like if you face these like the situations that Saturn brings you head on, if you face them with like as well as you can, if you embrace the darker aspects of yourself rather than like trying to push them away, then Saturn won't be as bad for you, I don't think. Like for instance, say you have like Saturn in Aries, which is a very difficult placement for Saturn, and it can actually make it worse. Then a lot of times you have a hard, like just by you trying to be yourself and trying to express yourself, then you face so many difficulties and so many like hardships and things that like get in your way. But a lot of that is like in the process of seeking freedom, you aren't able to like give yourself the discipline and routine that you need, and so then you end up imprisoning yourself even more, you know. But if you're able to get a handle on that and like discipline yourself in the ways that you need, then you can actually use Saturn in your favor. Yeah, I don't think Saturn is bad. But Saturn can bring about a lot of difficulties. Like say if you have like Saturn transiting through your second house, you may have a lot of restrictions placed on you financially, or like have to suddenly spend a lot of money on something. That's also why, in order to avoid all of these things that like these difficulties Saturn can bring about, you have to make sure that you are on it, on your things. Make sure that your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, and then Saturn won't be that bad. But you have to like really, really pay attention to what you're doing so that things that you didn't pay attention to before don't catch up on you, don't sneak up on you. Okay. Yeah. Also, people that are ruled by Saturn can be very strict, especially on themselves. But I like Saturn because, again, as I was I was talking about like the Venus Mars dynamic. I think the same thing can apply to like Jupiter and Saturn. Like how Jupiter is like these high ranks, it's these structures, it's like friends with people in high places, it's like giving you gifts, things like that. With Saturn, you have to earn it, you know. You have to, for Saturn to bless you with something, you have to make sure that everything you've done is of the best, like the best to your ability, you know. And also like sometimes these structures need to be broken down, you know. People that have heavy Saturn influence tend to be people who are very who can be very like marginalized, people who are very oppressed, people who face lots of difficulties in their life due to like systems that exist, right? And so Saturn shows how we're able to break those things down, and also shows how those systems have broken down. I think Saturn is really important to look at. I didn't mention what each of these planets rules, like in terms of signs, but I can do that another time because this is already like a long video. But yeah, this was a basic what these planets rule. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you listening to me talk about astrology and things like that. And a lot of what I was talking about, like, it can be applied to a natal chart, but some of this can also be applied to like events or charts of moments, you know? So like if you want to look at like a day, like a wedding day or something, like electional astrology, a lot of these like indications can be very helpful. But yeah, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, whatever. I hope that this helped you.